Comets are home tonight and tomorrow night. They're home for the next 5 games, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that's nice, especially because sometimes they go on these long road trips,
Which I guess they really have been on. And then, of course, tomorrow night, Syracuse plays Pioneers with a big weekend as well. We'll get into that. They're first place in their conference. And then Syracuse tomorrow night plays, is it Georgia Tech tomorrow night? And then the big one Monday against number 1 Duke. There are 1,000 seats left. Actually, less than 1,000 seats that are available to break the attendance record. Once again, that Syracuse-Duke game. And, of course, this year, Syracuse playing Duke when they are number 1.
Yeah, and wouldn't that be a big thing to take them down? Again, staying off the radar is what I like to see, but then when you come in as an unranked team and beat a team like Duke, which I think we can.
Well, they're in the ACC now, so now are the big games. How about, I know this doesn't seem like news, but a while back we talked about this stupid song that had like a billion views on YouTube. This shark, baby shark.
Yeah. And then it made the Hot 100 list.
It made the Hot 100 this week. The song is it not so when whoever does the countdown now, not Casey Kasem. When Casey Kasem does the countdown, when he in the top 40, when he gets to number 2, he would have to play this song. It's number 32 this week on the Billboard Hot 100. We
number
talked about
32, Baby Shark.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Sarah Thomas will become the first woman to officiate an NFL playoff game on Sunday during the Patriots-Chargers game. Here she is talking back in 2017 about how she became an NFL referee.
I grew up loving sports in Pascagoula, Mississippi, not too far from New Orleans.
That's right.
And then once I got into the program, as far as the Division I level, and then into the developmental program with the NFL, worked several New Orleans Saints scrimmages, and so practice, preparation, and then I got hired last year. I never looked at my gender as something that would hold me back. Thank goodness my father instilled in me that just never to depend on a man for anything, right? So I just never allowed that to hold me back. And the guys is such a professional. The NFL has done it right. They are truly a lot of professional men, and I'm just lucky to be a part of it.
What do you think of that, Jeff Manesky?
She's a Southern belle. She was never something about a program. And but yeah, it's funny because a lot of the televised games, she seems to be on a lot of the 4 o'clock feature games. I feel like I see her every single week. She does a good job. I can't say, there's many male officials. You can say, boy, they cost that team a game.
Yeah,
and I'm not aware of a circumstance with her.
I got to tell you, it's a kind of a way, especially last year, if you remember, everybody was fighting over what's a completed pass. And even this year, it's become a bit of an issue at times. So one might say, well, we're not doing all that great right now. Anything could be a possible improvement, right?
Yeah, I think she does a fine job.
The latest on this. I
don't know if I like the accent, though.
We are ending quite the week in the Utica area with 3 murders. All happening over the weekend, Sunday night into Monday. It seems that the suspect there, this deviant that killed his grandmother and is admittingly killed his grandmother and his grandmother's landlord, and then dismembered them, did end up in court yesterday. After speaking with the DA yesterday, he did confirm that he was being forced to wear this screen around his head because he continues to spit on people. Not to mention, he was unable to show up in court the day before because he was doing awful things. He made himself unpresentable in court. He smeared his own bodily fluids all over himself is really what came out of that conversation. It's just terrible. And you got to be thinking that this is the defense is going to come up with some sort of an insanity defense.
I should have asked D.A. McNamara when he was in yesterday. I have no idea. This is just the thought that came over my mind. If he was not exhibiting this kind of behavior prior to the incident, obviously he talked about the arrest or the case that happened about a year ago with the grandmother and him. It just makes me wonder if now realizing what he did, that he's acting out this way, because this isn't.
I have heard stories from people, and again, this is just conversation that you probably couldn't confirm at this point anyway. And the DA didn't want to get into a lot of that stuff based on the fact that there's most likely going to be obviously a trial.
Yeah.
But people who know this kid say that he has been making comments for quite some time. Comments that include Jesus and just really crazy comments. So, however, if you recall, earlier in the week, we spoke with one person who actually tried to help the kid out, and he was working at a local restaurant. So he was able to conduct himself in a manner in which he would be socially acceptable.
Right.
So what made him snap? And before the killing, the people that we spoke to said that he had an episode to the point where he had to be removed from the restaurant just a few days before these murders had occurred. So something served as the straw that broke the camel's back. Interesting story out of Griffiths this morning, in the Observer-Dispatch. And it is an Alaskan company that just recently made use of the drone test site out at Griffiths to use a parachute system for drones. And this is probably just the beginning of what you could do with it, but basically what this would assure, and remember, this is a safety test site that's being used by several companies, including NASA. But what would happen is if a drone were flying over a very crowded area, if a drone were flying over a concert or some sort of an event like maybe even the Boilermaker at the post-race party, and it were to have a malfunction, the parachute system would kick in and it would allow it to come down to the ground without causing a danger or injuring anyone. But that is being tested out at Griffiths, and it has an automatic system that would kick in if it detected a quick descent and looked as if the thing was going to present some danger to people. That's all one of the big issues that a lot of these places, races, events, concerts, sporting events, oftentimes will ban drone use because of the fear that the drones will lose control and end up flying into people and ultimately injuring them. So that's going on out at Griffiths right now. And a little update on, you saw that Tim Tebow, I'm surprised Andrew hasn't led with this, or come in with a banner, but Tim Tebow, who's expected to probably start the season off in Syracuse, playing for the Mets. Tim Tebow has just gotten married. He has married a former Miss Universe. So, and she's quite a catch.
When did they get married?
I believe just recently. I don't have the date or time, but the only reason recently.
I ask is, and I'm being serious about this. He had saved himself. He was saving himself.
I believe so. Yeah.
So I just wonder if how who was the one who cut his hair? Samson?
Yeah. Right.
Well, do you think it's a similar type thing? Do you know this has happened?
Yeah, I know
Your boy
this.
Tim Tebow, you didn't get an invite?
Our boy's going to lose his V card.
You didn't get an invite?
Not yet.
Well, he's already
they just got engaged.
Anyway, I'm sure it'll be a quick evening, but he will be most likely playing in Syracuse. So
that would be the Samson thing.
Even more experienced probably at baseball than he is in relationship with a female.
Yeah, Samson was really good at was really strong and lost his power. Tebow's not even really good in baseball.
And that's because a devil woman cut his hair off without his knowledge. That's the difference.
Excuse me. And one more. This meteorologist is getting a lot of play. It was Al Roker the other day that came out. We're talking about the meteorologist in Rochester that somehow uttered a racial slur in the midst of talking about Martin Luther King Park. He used the word coon as he was describing, or actually announcing the name of the park in Rochester. Martin Luther blank King Jr. Park is what came out. He kind of glossed over it because he realized what had come out of his mouth. He didn't mean to say it, he says. He says he's never even uttered that word. Mm-hmm. However, after pressure from the mayor in Rochester, NAACP, the station fired him. And Al Roker this week came out in defense of him, saying, listen, he made a mistake. It isn't even a conscious mistake. It wasn't anything racist. We believe him. Give this guy a break. Now, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter has come out. And what do you think she had to say? She has come out in defense of the meteorologist, saying he should not have been fired. Dr. Bernice King, she's the youngest child of the late civil rights leader, said Thursday that she also does not think that he should have been fired. Instead, he needs an opportunity to be rehabilitated. Yes, there have been some repercussions, she told TMZ. I don't think it should go as far in this particular instance as firing an individual. So this guy might be up for, this might be, as ironic as it seems, this might be one of probably the best things that could have happened to his career. I think this guy's going to end up getting a really big job after this. At the very least, maybe getting his job back.
Can I just ask, if you think he didn't do it on purpose, I don't mean you. I mean, if a person thinks he didn't do it on purpose and this was an accidental slip of the tongue and he's no intent at all and he's not that kind of a guy, what does he have to go to rehab for?
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure necessarily.
What kind of rehab is that?
I think that she might have meant that in a more of a general sense, as in rehabbing his career and his reputation at this point. I agree with her when she says he shouldn't have been fired. It's ridiculous. I don't know what kind of rehab it would
rehabilitated.
include.
You would have to believe there was some intent on his part.
The shutdown is affecting people. Today is the day. It is going to be a pretty big day when it comes to checks being sent out or checks that are not being sent out. About 800,000 federal employees are going to be going unpaid. I do have to say, forget which side you're on, it sickens me to watch people on TV say, give me a break. They're going to get their check. They're going to get paid back. It might take a couple of weeks or even a couple of months, but they're going to get their money back. I don't know what these people are crying about. Listen, in your own life, think of it. If you were told you're not getting your paycheck for the next month, would it affect you? Or would you be like, hey, I save up. Everything's fine. I've got 3 months' worth of revenue here. I'm ready to go.
Well, that would be a lot.
I am prepared for this. Tanya Powers has a very interesting story about what Coast Guard families are being told they could do to cope. Good morning, Tanya J. Powers.
Good morning. Well, yeah, there was a tip sheet that was published by the Coast Guard Support Program, which is an employee assistance arm of the service. And it said to get by without pay, consider holding a garage sale, babysitting, dog walking, or serving as a mystery shopper.
Can you believe
bankruptcy is a last option.
They're telling them to sell their personal belongings.
I hate to tell them this, but if you get to that point financially, you've already considered selling pretty much anything you have to survive.
And by the way, I hope my father doesn't show up because he'd be like, I see you have a $35 sticker on this. Would you take a nickel? Because that's what people do at garage sales. You don't pay full price.
Right.
Oh, boy.
Exactly. They the last time they have this civilian workforce that I didn't realize was this large. It's 8,500 people in the civilian workforce for the Coast Guard. About 6,400 of them are on indefinite furlough. 2,100 are working without pay. This is according to a story in the Washington Post. And by the way, once the Washington Post asked about this tip sheet, apparently they took it off the website.
I'll bet they did.
Because I guess they had gotten a tip about, hey, this is what they're telling us to do. And then they were looking into it. That's what happened. So a lot of these people who were paid, they were last paid for the 2-week period that ended December 22nd. So that was before Christmas. So think about how long that feels like it's been.
Tanya,
I know. I've been paid twice since then, and I sure don't feel like it.
and Tanya, being somebody that you, like us, you've been in radio through your career, and everybody starts in a small place. I'm pretty sure I've had at least 3 radio stations I've worked for that had the same directive in the company handbook. It's like, in order to be able to work in radio, feel free to have garage sales, sell old coins, do whatever you can.
You may be furloughed for months and months.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been through a furlough. You have? When I was a TV news producer for a while, and our station was bought. And during all of that, we were on 2-week furloughs, and it was really difficult. I mean, we even knew how long it was going to last, and it was still hard because you didn't get paid.
Right, you knew there was an end, but you're still sitting there with no revenue coming in.
Yeah, you got no revenue coming in. And another couple of things to remember about these employees, especially when you're talking about the Coast Guard, they get funded from the Department of Homeland Security, not the Defense Department.
Mm.
So for anybody thinking, oh, well, it's the Defense Department, they can't shut that down.
Right.
Well, that's not where their money comes from. And the second thing is, remember, a lot of them live in coastal cities that are expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
You know, we've got, this is the Coast Guard here, in New York. We've got, they're in, San Diego, Seattle. I mean, these are cities that it is not cheap to live in or around.
All right, Tanya, very interesting. And somebody, you would think they would have said fishing at least. At least these guys are out on boats, but they don't even recommend fishing.
That might have, I don't know, that may have been insult to injury. By the way, it's also January. I mean, how much outside stuff are you going to be able to do in some places?
Very good point. Of all people to make that mistake, me sitting here, I hate the cold, and it's so frigid right now.
I was about to ask, do you have snow up there already?
Syracuse got hit pretty well in this storm, but we had snow in November, and it looked like we were going to have a heavy winter, and it's been extremely mild. This is the first real cold spell we've experienced, but honestly, I probably have 1/4 of an inch on the ground at my house.
Okay.
So not much at all here, but Syracuse, I think, was hit pretty hard in this last week. This storm was pretty good for them, and some other parts, it's been very localized.
Oh, stay warm.
Not a typical winter, Tanya J. Powers.
No.
Not by any means. So, all right, thank you so much.
Sure.
Tanya J. Powers from Fox News. Andrew updates the news coming up. Willie Waffle and the weekend's movies coming up. There's a couple of good ones that are coming up, and a lot to talk about with that as well. And we have a free money question of the day from the Hobica Law Firm. It's worth $100. We'll do it at 7:35 this morning.
I've done good all week cutting down with the cigarettes, and as you know,
you're on the patch, by the way.
I'm on the patch. I got a lozenge. I'm still smoking. My nicotine levels are through the roof, okay?
You're getting more nicotine in your system than ever before.
I was joking with someone the other day that now I'm trying to quit. I think I'll be more addicted than ever before.
Yeah.
But it's so amazing how I can feel it in my system. I can feel it, how I crave it. I have had one today, and I do have the patch on, but I feel it's amazing how I can feel it. I can feel my body like... And then even when I was sitting here with the show opened, I'm kind of like a little antsy, and then I put the patch on, and all this week I felt...
And the patch brings you down. It brings you from that edge point.
Not right away,
I wouldn't
clearly.
say initially...
Yeah. See, you two are like arguing or something.
You're not lactose intolerant. What are you guys talking about?
Anyway, I have... it's quite an interesting view from this vantage point. Willie Waffle standing by right now. Willie, did you ever smoke? Have you ever had a problem with smoking?
No, I never smoked, but it sounds like Jeff's going to go through the DTs at some point. I'm a little bit worried about this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Willie. But you're right. I'll be all right, though.
Everyone
else will, too.
It is interesting when you go through all the stuff when it comes to, you get to be 50 and all of a sudden you do the blood tests for prostate and for the colonoscopy and all of those things. The first question they always ask you is, have you ever smoked? Mm-hmm. And it dramatically increases the chances of all forms of cancer.
Yeah. So, and that's why I want to get away
Not
from
that that's any big groundbreaking news.
No.
But we know it, yet we still still partake.
It's a toxic poison. And if I get asked that question, have you ever smoked? I always say, when haven't I? Hey, come on. I mean, let's be honest about it. But, I'm at least trying to do a little better. I do want to get rid of this nasty stuff from my body.
Willie Waffle, good morning. How are you?
I'm feeling pretty good. The only nasty thing in my body is cake, but that's not nasty, baby.
Yeah, that's good. The frosting, the colder it gets, the more it just feels like fudge, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yes.
Is that cake stale? No, it's fudge.
It's the only good part of the wintertime is the coldness makes cake taste so much better. All right. By the way, speaking of food, I had mentioned before the break, Chobani, if you're lactose intolerant, Chobani has come up with a Greek yogurt that is dairy free. That's a pretty big deal.
Get out.
Yeah. Yogurt.
Oh my
Is there any yogurt out there that's dairy free?
Is it a synthetic yogurt?
None that I'd want to eat.
They make it out of, believe it or not, it's made out of, I'm going to get some just to try it. It's made out of, coconut puree.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah. So then there's vanilla, chai, strawberry, mango, and slightly sweet plain that you could enjoy. It's no gluten, soy, or artificial sweeteners or flavors.
That's good.
Yeah. They ought to serve that stuff at the movie theater. There's my transition. Hello, Willie Waffle.
Very
terrible
smooth transition. You're a radio professional.
Oh, boy. All right. So we have what? We have like 4 different biggies this week. Are any of these really, really big?
I don't think anything's really, really big. I think that, the really, really big movie is going to be next week when Glass comes out. I think this week is kind of a holdover, for Aquaman to do well. And then there's interesting movies depending on what you're in the mood for. And I think, A Dog's Way Home is a great example of this. Here you've got this movie. It's about this little dog that's adopted by a family, loves the family to death, and then they get separated. And the dog's 400 miles away, but it knows it must head home. And it's going to go through the mountains and through the rivers and through the snow and through the coyotes and through the mountain lions to get back home.
Wow, this is quite a motion picture. What do you think on this one?
I think it's a movie that, while it's very simplistic, and it is, it is really a very simple movie. It's a very cliche movie. It's a completely overly sweet movie. But man, you just love that little dog. You can't disassociate yourself from all the emotion in the movie. So I'll say 2 waffles. Just be real careful. You might think, oh, it's a cute little dog movie for the kiddies. They will be scarred for life at some of the things that happen in this movie.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, so be careful. Manaski shouldn't take his toddler to this one.
Probably a bad idea.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
How about so you have the replicas and the Upside. How about these two?
Yeah, Replicas is the new Keanu Reeves movie. He plays a scientist, and his family perishes in a horrible accident, and he decides to try to bring them back with science. And it's just a ridiculous movie. It is so horribly written. Keanu Reeves is just doing his Keanu Reeves thing here, which doesn't work. I'm going to say half a waffle for Replicas. The Upside is really the better movie.
This is a disabled man finds an unlikely aid. What is this one?
Yep, Bryan Cranston is a billionaire quadriplegic. He needs a life aid, and Kevin Hart kind of stumbles into the interview and gets the job. And, of course, they're from 2 worlds, and they're going to find out more about each other and become pals. And, it's extremely cliche, but, they're very charming together. They have great chemistry together. And I think Kevin Hart gets a chance to dial it down a few notches, be a little bit more somber, and it's a nice thing for him. Bryan Cranston is one of the best actors out there and gets so much emotion with just his voice and his attitude in this movie. I'll say 2.5 waffles. It's a nice movie.
All right.
You're being generous.
And I'm not sure that we're going to see this one yet. On the basis of sex, it is a biography of Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, and it's an interesting case. They go back to when she was a lawyer in the 1970s, and she takes up a case, takes it all the way to the Supreme Court. It's a gender discrimination case against a male, and she sees the opportunity to fight for equality under the law for every gender, saying if you can't use the law to be discriminated against a gender, no matter what it is. It really makes it kind of a women's rights case. And that part is interesting. And I think I had more. I wish I had more of that.
Yeah. By the way, that movie is showing in this area. It has hit theaters here.
What's it called?
On the Basis of Sex, and of course, it's pretty topical right now because Ruth Ginsburg is going through another bout with cancer. She's missed her first opening arguments with the Supreme Court. First time she's missed anything, even as she suffered from cancer previously.
I think they made a ruling actually already on a case.
What did you what did you think there, Willie?
I think that if they had focused in on the case, it would have been a lot more interesting movie. They get really deep into her life and her life at Harvard Law and trying to raise a family, and it's all very honorable. Don't get me wrong, but it's not that interesting. The interesting part is that legal case. So I'm going to say like 1.5 waffles. And here's the thing: I'm just so turned off by just a blatant attempt to. Let's champion the liberal person on the Supreme Court. She wasn't the first woman on the Supreme Court.
Right.
I mean, we don't have to make her. I mean, she's a trailblazer. Don't get me wrong, but she was behind somebody else on the trail.
But I got to tell you though, if you're a liberal, she's and female, she is a champion of the women's movement, and. Yeah. She is she's like a cult hero out there. They have lines of clothing, and it's really there's some sort of a Ginsburg phenomena out there that's kind of crazy.
People are offering a year off of their life to give her another year of life.
I'll give you one of my years. We got to keep you there. Boy, it's crazy.
My cousin has a T-shirt that says "The Grateful Ginsburg."
Yes, there's a huge line of T-shirts that are made, and they send her T-shirts that are. It's really quite a. I watched another YouTube thing on her over the holiday, and people are like nuts over her. It's crazy. Willie, I want your take on, quickly, Golden Globes. Was that just unentertaining, or was I just in a bad mood?
No, it was boring. It wasn't very good at all. I mean, there were some cute little moments where they tried to send up award ceremonies, but overall, it was just a flat show, and I think it's a flat show because we don't really have any movies we're super excited about that are in the Oscar race. I mean, I think we're excited about Black Panther, but it seems to be getting pushed to the background. I think if we were more interested in the movies, the show would be more interesting.
And what do you think of this whole Kevin Hart thing and of the announcement that came yesterday that the Oscars will be hostless for the first time in about 30 years?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised at that. I thought they were laying the groundwork to bring Kevin Hart back.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really where they were going, or they maybe sneak in Whoopi Goldberg. Going hostless is like the cop-out.
Yeah.
It's like, we can't find anybody who can withstand the scrutiny, and we don't want to stand up for anything, so we'll just go hostless. And the advantage is now no one will be able to make fun of all the Hollywood elites sitting there in the crowd. So they're going to be happy about that.
I guess.
Which is the part that stinks, but is that almost like a how do I want to say this? Basically, you're all too offensive to be up here.
Yeah.
You're all too offensive.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Or we're all too sensitive. That's really what's
Or this
happened.
award ceremony is in a big glass theater, so we shouldn't throw any stones.
All right, Willie, thanks, man. Enjoy the weekend, all right?
All right, you too. I'll talk to you guys later.
It's wafflemovies.com. The event is this Sunday, and I'm right. The food's great. The TVs are playing the games, and there's a ton of prizes, and it benefits United Way. So
the
it's
only
great
bad
cause.
thing about the event is that it typically is a send off for the Patriots to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
so.
maybe not though.
Maybe not this year. Yeah, they're certainly not the same team, and Brady doesn't look good, and San Diego's hot. I don't think I like L.A., the Chargers, excuse me. I'm always going to do that. L.A. is hot. I actually don't think they can beat New England in New England, but I don't think they're going
tough
to the
to beat
Super Bowl.
New England in New England.
Yeah.
As well. 7:16 on the line right now is Chief Meteorologist at Eyewitness News, Rachel Witter. And we finally had a burst of winter, and it is quite cold out there this morning. And Rachel is out in the elements. Good morning.
Well, not quite in the elements yet. I'm on my way.
Oh, you're on your way. So you're on a snowmobile track today, right?
Yes, I am. Took the day off to do it.
All right, so let me ask you, I want to ask you, where do you have to go? Because we have a dusting here, maybe a quarter of an inch if we're lucky. Is it Tug Hill? Where are you going to do your snowmobiling?
Yeah, I'm going to Tug Hill. Best bet. I was up there Wednesday night to shoot my snowmobile report, and that was when the lake effect was really getting going. They had it all day yesterday, too, even, like, into very early this morning. So that's the area that got hardest hit. But some areas down here actually kind of overperformed with the lake effect, especially last night.
Yeah.
Just kind of hung on. It wasn't a lot of accumulation, but it lasted a while. So that was really the tail end of what was left of that storm system from the middle of the week. And now we're just left with a bitter cold as a result.
I got to tell you, the koi fish and goldfish in my pond in my backyard are completely confused. They're still swimming around. They haven't gone into hibernation or whatever they go into because this weather has been so crazy, up and down. You don't. There's been really. This is the first burst of winter we've experienced since we got that first burst in early on in the fall. So, how much snow did Tug Hill get, Rachel?
There were definitely areas that got a foot plus. It's obviously lake effect, very hit or miss, but 8 to 12 was a good bet. But the further south you went, and the southern edge of Tug Hill, it was just about as much as we got in Utica and some of the south towns in Oneida County too. So a foot plus. There were some spots that did, but it definitely isn't a big lake effect event like what they're used to, but it was big compared to what we've had so far.
And I have to say, without getting into this long debate over global warming and climate change and all of that, it really is different now. It seems much more difficult to get good snowmobile trails and ski trails out there in our part of upstate New York.
Yeah, and even in the last 10 to 15 years, you can notice the difference. I noticed the difference from my childhood. I don't remember ever having a winter. I don't even remember it raining during the winter,
I know.
To be honest. But, now it just seems like the storm track is keeps us on the warm side of things. So it'll shift the whole jet stream. It affects all the weather patterns. So I think, in a way, it does have an effect. We're not actually going to be able to tell if that's it, for 100 years, just based on climate patterns. But
you think we'll be around? We'll be around to talk about it. We'll talk about it. Yeah,
right.
That's right.
Yeah.
She'll still be snowmobiling.
I'm sure you're tickled pink. You're heading off to snowmobile. I know you love doing it, and enjoy your day. Enjoy the snow. You got a full weekend of it, right? I mean, it's going to be cold all weekend long.
Full weekend of it.
All right.
So, and can I just point out, and Rachel, I hope you have we all hope you have a great time this weekend snowmobiling. I'm not trying to rush to winter, although I actually am, but I had to look up yesterday because it was, 10 of 5 and it was dark outside. 2 months from this weekend, March 10th is the set your clock ahead. You spring forward. Spring forward. Yeah. 2 months. It's basically 2 months. Obviously, February is a shorter month, but I'm already counting down the days. We're now 56 days away from the clock change.
Hey, baseball. Pitchers and catchers reporting really soon. It's coming.
Well, like a month.
All right, Rachel. Enjoy the weekend. Have fun.
Thank you.
All right. Rachel Witter, chief meteorologist at Eyewitness News. She loves she's an outdoor girl. She loves the snow.
Yeah, and I mean, shame on me for not enjoying. I live in this part of the country, so I ought to.
You don't have to enjoy it for her.
No, I mean me. I mean for me.
Don't enjoy it.
I'm. I got the numbers on the calendar, and I'm counting down 56 days now until we change the clock, and only have to deal with 6 more weeks of winter. But
wouldn't it be cool if we could build take the Carrier Dome concept and just plop it right down into your neighborhood. So, right? I mean, it'd be like little houses inside. You can't have a really big house, but if you take the bleachers out of the dome and all those the hallways and all the other stuff they have around it, you could put a little community in there. And it's like, hello, neighbor. Beautiful day out today, huh?
You know what you'd have to keep, though, is the guys walking around going, hot dogs!
Pepsi! Can you believe there's no air conditioning in this neighborhood?
I know.
It's crazy. It's crazy. We'll break and come back here. Sorry. It's the week after all the vacation stuff and the craziness
that first
of the
5-day
holidays.
week. Yeah.
You had New Year's falling on Tuesday. Some people took Wednesday off. Well, I did. And so then you came and you had a short week Thursday and Friday, and all of a sudden it's the weekend again. This is that first week back that's the real deal.
So you think next week will be easier?
I'm just going to call in sick a couple days. A couple days next week. I do think it does get easier because you get a little more...
in your routine.
But here we are. It's Friday. We want a couple of crazy stories here this morning before I break.
Mm-hmm. I love these.
A woman in Milwaukee was arrested on New Year's Eve.
For?
Well, she and her friend were driving around offering free hugs.
Oh,
okay.
that's nice.
Mainly to guys. And they were attractive. And they were professional at what they did.
Uh-huh.
So as they would do the hug, they'd do the old reach around.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd grab the guy's wallet.
Reach around to the backside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, here's a little audio on this. They were arrested, by the way, for stealing several wallets from men on New Year's Eve.
During the holiday season, everybody's happy, so it's like, oh, a hug.
Definitely could see the enticement there, but you got to be careful nowadays. Hearing this story, it's kind of crazy, though. It's a little disturbing, actually.
I'm glad I wasted that 10 seconds for that. But either way, the story is the story. It's what happened in Milwaukee, right?
Why I don't carry a wallet?
They're using their beauty like a peacock. They're using their beauty to lure in the men.
Andrew says that's why he doesn't carry a wallet. I say that's why I carry two. You
got the decoy wallet.
It was worth it, right? Yeah, the decoy. They take it's got a 50-50 shot. They're going to take the one with money in it. Here's a video of two teenagers trying to figure out how to use a rotary telephone.
You have 4 minutes to dial that phone number.
That's it?
That's it. With that phone.
All the way from here.
This is kind of a funny concept.
It is.
But
yeah.
I would think that I always had and we don't today. We don't even have a landline anymore. But I always used to have a rotary dial phone in my house that was connected. And so my kids grew up knowing how to use a rotary phone.
Uh-huh.
But somewhere
I
I don't do that anymore.
A lot of work, but,
It is.
Well, other than traditional phones.
And the party line, when I grew up, we had a party line. We had like 4 different families on the same phone line. And you'd pick up, and they'd be talking. And I always tell the story how I figured out if you unscrewed the old telephones that had the little transmitter there, which was where you talk. And if that came out, sometimes that would go bad. The phone company would come and they'd replace it. But if you unscrewed and then picked up the phone, you'd hear them. I was something as a kid.
Oh.
And then you take that little disc. It was a little round disc with holes in it. That's what you would talk into.
Uh-huh.
And if you take that off, it would make a click. So if you remember being on a party line, it would be the click. You'd hear the person, and then if they didn't click, you'd say something like, you can hang up now. Right? And then you'd hang up. But by taking the little mouthpiece and pulling it off, it made a click sound. So the other 2 people on the line thought you had hung up. And then you just sit there and listen with no noise able to come through. Because there's no microphone. You basically unplugged the microphone.
Well, you got some stories?
The conversations I would hear.
Those Keelers up there, boy, I tell you.
This is the reason. I knew it couldn't have been your parents because they're great people.
Anyway, here they are trying to dial on a rotary phone.
Oh, no, zero's all the way over. How do I restart?
Because you'd have to go, like if you were dialing 8 or 9, you'd have to make sure you went all the way around, hit the little metal stopper.
Otherwise it wouldn't register.
And then let it go back. And you couldn't force it back because if you go back too quickly, it wouldn't have the... And that's all done through audible sounds. It was creating a sound. Each number was creating a different sound that would register and allow the phone to dial.
So did you have to dial 8 or 9 or 0 before you started dialing a phone number?
That's the other thing. You remember when phone calls cost, It was a local call for us to call. Like, I grew up in the Mohawk area, which was 866. We were tied to Herkimer.
Sure.
So I could make a phone call to Herkimer. But nearby Ilion, which was 894, 895, it was a long-distance call.
Long distance?
Long distance. I could have thrown a rock and landed on the 894 exchange. It was long distance to call to Ilion. And that was such a big deal when they said, we've made it so that it's now a free call. You can call Ilion for free. Ilion and Frankfurt were connected. Mohawk and Ilion or Mohawk and Herkimer were connected. So once they allowed that, you could be in Herkimer and call Frankfurt, and it wouldn't be a toll call.
Wow.
Prior to that, your mother would be like, you can't call there because it'll cost. So you didn't make a phone call. You couldn't call anybody from Ilion. Utica was a long-distance call, obviously.
That's crazy.
Let alone having to do an area code to dial out of the area code would be extremely expensive.
That's a lot. So I remember, too, when they transitioned into really the cell phones, and I remember having one, and you'd ever have to call like an automated number, and they'd say, dial 1 for, but it was almost like they didn't register some of the cell phone tones early on, because when you had a landline phone, the beeps is what connect, the sound of the certain beeps would connect you to where you needed to be, but early cell phone technology kind of didn't account for that. So I remember I'd be hitting 1 and nothing would happen.
Here's one more for you. Without reminiscing, 2 Waffle House employees in Georgia filmed themselves messing with a drunk, passed-out customer. This has become a big thing on Instagram, and if you're still doing this at this point in your life, what is wrong with you?
What do you mean?
They found a drunk guy. They moved his body around. They moved his body around like he was dancing. Mm-hmm. They poured cheese and salt on his head and ketchup all over his head.
Well, that's mean. That's mean.
And the employees who did it have been fired. They posted it on Instagram. If you think that doing this and posting it on Instagram isn't going to get you fired or in trouble, you have to be an idiot.
Listen, I'm not against grabbing a selfie with the guy, but they were squeezing this ketchup bottle on his head.
Yeah,
come on.
That's how they left the guy.
Come on.
And then they posted it, so they've been fired. I have a free money question of the day coming up in a second. Some opportunity for you to win $100 from the Hobica Law Firm. We'll get to it coming up for here this Friday, January 11th. Carol Evans of Utica is 57 years old today. Carol, happy birthday. Keith Drake in New York Mills is celebrating. Kathy Lewicki of Whitesboro is celebrating as well. And Richard Butchen, Butchen, in New Hartford is 88 years old. 88 today. Richard, happy birthday.
Yeah, man.
Andrea Brown in Oneida is celebrating on the 12th. And the cake from the Florentine Pastry Shop on Bleecker Street in Utica will go to Carol Evans of Utica, who's turning 57. Carol, happy birthday. You get a cake from the Florentine. Free money question coming up. Larry in Remsen is standing by right now. Good morning, Larry. Good morning. How are you?
Oh, good. Good morning.
Good to hear from you, Larry.
Oh, it's been a while.
Take a shot on this thing. A chance to win $100 in cash from the Hobica Law Firm. Easy question, I guess. Okay. You'll have 7 seconds to get it in. Get your answer in before the buzzer. And here we go. Flat panel televisions. We were just talking about how big is this one?
18 feet.
18 feet. So it'd be, if you went from corner to corner, it's like a diagonal measurement. Right. 18 feet. Can you imagine that? Anyway, flat panel TVs became big in the early 2000s.
I mean, you couldn't put it on this wall. You couldn't put it on that wall.
It would not. It would be too big.
I think you could put it on this wall, but I'm
not
sure.
You wouldn't be high enough because it's 18 feet diagonal.
So that's what I mean. Who's going to put this in their house? You have to have a mansion.
Yeah, you
anyway.
would. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Anyway, flat panel TVs became big in the early 2000s. The first ever flat panel TV debuted not commercially, but in laboratories in what year? Ready? Go. First flat panel television.
2001?
And you're going to say 2001. No, this was a toughie.
87.
The early 2000s is when they started selling commercially. Yeah. The first flat panel that debuted, they were in laboratories back in 1964.
Holy cow.
So that technology was around for 30 years, for almost 40 years before it ever became commercially viable. So, which is why we had those gigantic 32-inch monstrosities that were kill yourself trying to get them upstairs or into, God forbid, in a bedroom. Hey, it's not all for naught. We'll give you a $25 gift card to the 72 Tavern and Grill, which, of course, is located over at the Adirondack Bank Center. Okay?
Thank you.
Great food over there. Davey's going to hook you up. Larry, thank you.
You know,
Which
the point
I'll be there at some point today at the 72.
That's still on.
I'm craving, I'm craving the tuna tartare.
Get the chopped cob. That's what I'll have for lunch today.
Anyway, that's a $25 gift card. Larry, congratulations.
And you're the point you made about the 29-inch TV that cost that weighed 140 pounds. You know, it's
which you can't
ridiculous.
give away today. You have to pay to have somebody take it away.
Yeah, and actually, my grandmother had still has in her home. There's a television. My grandmother's passed, but we still have that television that's like furniture. You know what I mean? It's furniture. There's like a rack on it, and the TV's built right in, and still the
works.
color's not great, but it still works.
Yeah, nice. And you keep it. Why? Because you can't get rid of it. What are you going to do with it? It's like an upright piano.
Well,
you have a beautiful upright piano. What's the value of that? Well, it's negative $200.
Yes,
because that's what you're going to have to pay to have somebody drag that out of your house. That's the problem. Colleen Fahey Box. Do I have that right? Faybox. Yep. Okay. Awesome pronouncer here. Colleen Faybox, who's the Commissioner of Oneida County Social Services, and Brian Zweed is the Director of Civil Service Administration. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Good morning.
Did I butcher your name, too?
No, you got it.
Okay. I recognize your name.
Yeah.
Okay, Colleen, you guys, we've been talking about this for the last week and a half, that you guys are looking to hire up to 30 positions right now?
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me what requirements. You do need a bachelor's degree, but salaries, starting salaries over $38,000.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a range because they're positions, they have a contract, so they go up every year. You know, it's built in. I think the contract right now we have 5 years. Am I right?
Up to 2021.
2021 right now the contract is. So
okay.
You know, so it's actually a range. That's the starting pay.
And in addition, you could there's a tuition program where you could be eligible to have your college loan debt just eliminated, right?
Yeah, the loan forgiveness program. It's through the federal government. It's not through us, but anybody who works for like the public sector can apply to hopefully either get their monthly payments either decreased or, you know, over the course of 10 years have it, you know, forgiven. So
it's funny because Jeff and I had we had one of our first disputes when I started working here on the radio. And do you remember what it was about? Not that thing. We can't talk about that. It was about unemployment in the area and how there are so many people without jobs. They can't find good jobs around here. And we argued over that because I said, no, it's really just the opposite right now. There are so many businesses and companies out there that are struggling to find employees willing to work today. It's crazy. Otherwise, you guys wouldn't be here, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So talk about what people will be, what these jobs entail.
Sure. The caseworker positions are within the Department of Social Services, and they primarily work with children and families. It's a very rewarding career. You know, you can work in there's a broad range of things you could do. Like we're involved with, the foster care system, adoptions, child protective. We work with the juvenile justice system. We work with vulnerable adults. It's a wide range of human services that you could choose from. Most people, when they start, we start them in child protective because what happens is when a caseworker comes in, there's tremendous training, and it's recognized as being tremendous training. So for someone for their resume, even moving forward, it's just a great thing to have. So we start them in that capacity, and then from there, you know, there's different avenues where they could go.
Brian, there is you got to be pretty quick with this because there's a deadline, right?
Yeah. Next Wednesday, actually, the 16th. Applications have to be into our office by 4:30. We do not accept postmarks. So I recommend if anybody is interested to actually bring it to our office, 800 Park Avenue. We're on the 6th floor in the personnel office. We always have staff there available to help anybody out if they have any questions too.
Can I ask, how long is the training process if you are hired?
If you're hired, it takes approximately 3 months with the state, but it's not all. You don't have to go away for all of it. Some of it you go to the Albany area, and that's all paid for. That's paid for through the county or the state, and then so you might go a week, come back a week, and then you do online type training, and then there's another component. There's probably another 3 months that we do in house.
Wow, a lot of training for obviously an important position.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, to be hiring 30 people, was there an expansion in the department? How did...
There has been, indeed, there has been an increase in our child protective reports, and we've also there's been an increase in the homeless, and at the state level, they've created a whole homeless division, which, filters down to us that, new requirements or whatever. So, yes. And also partly we've had some people retire. We've had a lot of long-term employees and people who have retired. So, that's part of it. And it's also part that it's an entry-level position in social services, so there's a career ladder there. But a lot of people, young people today, as they graduate from college, when they come in, people do change jobs. And that was something I kind of wanted just to point out, because I think sometimes people look at it and they come into it thinking, oh, I'm not sure I want to do that for my whole career. And although, of course, we hope they will, if they chose not to, it's still a great, great job for experience. Like I said, we've had so many people come up to me years later and say, that was the best experience, and that really launched my, in any human services field. And that training is very widely recognized as, people appreciate it, and it helps people no matter what because I think it's hard when you get right out of college to know exactly what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Right, right. And are you, I guess you can't ask for an age today, right? We want people only between these ages, and there'll be no age discrimination, but wink, wink. Is there an age that, if you're somebody that's my age,
Absolutely. And, there's a
I'm very young, by the way.
Yeah. Me too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's a value to, truly, there's a value to young people, I think, come in. They're energetic. They're they're motivated. There is some field work, and there's some challenging circumstance. But sometimes you hire people who are a little bit older and just life experience. Yeah. Life experience is important when you're working with families and kids. So sincerely, we're open to a broad range because they both bring their own assets to the job.
Yeah. All right, for our part in this, you go to our website at WIBX950.com. There's a navigation bar, and you'll see CNY Online Job Fair. Click on that link, and it'll give you all the information and details on how to apply. And the key is you must apply before next Wednesday. And, Brian, again, it's not like sending your taxes in. It's postmarked by the city. It has to be in-house.
Yeah, and I want to stress, too, this title is given actually year-round. We give it twice a year. So if you are on the fence about, applying to be a caseworker, you may be a caseworker somewhere else, and, you think about, coming over. If you do happen to miss this deadline, we do have another exam in August, and that application deadline is June 12th. So if you do miss the next Wednesday's deadline, you still have a second opportunity if you don't.
There might be somebody in school, too, that might not be graduating until whatever. All right, Colleen Faye Box, as in Kevin Faye Kitchens, spelled the same way.
Yes, that would be my cousin.
Okay,
actually.
there, that finally put the two and two together. Brian, Juid as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, go to our website at WIBX950.com. Click on the navigation bar on the link that says CNY Online Job Fair. And you must get the application in by next Wednesday, January 16th. We'll break the way the world is going to end.
Oh.
And it's not going to be good.
It never is. Every time the world ends, it's always something bad.
I know.
Jeez.
It will not involve having to put a blindfold on, just if you watch that Bird Box movie.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with that.
No zombies?
But it does have to do with the biggest menace and pest that we are dealing with right now, and they're about to take over.
No.
We're not going to be killed by Russians. We will not be destroyed by some ISIS group.
No.
We're going to die as a society. We will be eradicated from the earth by ticks.
Oh, gosh.
Yep, it's coming.
We got to have our guy in here to get that machine going.
It's coming. This new breed of ticks that has made its way to the northeast coast. It's been they found them in New Jersey. They're
from New Jersey.
They're from New Jersey. And I was on a cruise ship about 6 years ago with a group of New Jersey ticks, and we actually found another place to eat dinner every night. It was so bad. It was awful.
I remember this.
Awful.
I remember this.
Oh my God. Anyway, those ticks, when they bite, the mortality rate is like 75%. They cluster and they reproduce without needing the opposite
they're
sex.
Asexual.
Correct.
How did we get a cure for cancer? We can't get rid of ticks.
I don't know the answer to it, but give you an idea. They just discovered a python, a huge python, and I saw a picture of this. And it was dying. They actually saved the python. It was covered by more than 500 ticks.
Oh.
So, and imagine what's a python going to do? How's a python going to get the tick out, right?
Mm-hmm. Like, he can wiggle a little, but
it's not just going to be humans. This is one of the most invasive problems that we have. And these bites that are fatal, I do wonder someday it'll either be a virus or it'll be ticks that are gonna do us in.
You know, the tick flu used to be bird
flu. The tick
flu.
flu. Yeah, it's gonna be the tick flu. Got a break. WIBX Utica Rome. It is 8:00. Bears kicker that blew it is all over the media today, and he is. So I'm hearing that the ball was tipped. Have you seen that, or was
I didn't even
bad
see
kick?
it. I think everybody was so focused on the upright crossbar.
You know what they got to do? They got to go and say to him, like, all right, here's the deal. Here's what you do. I want you to hit the upright and bounce it down to the crossbar. All right, ready, go.
Yeah.
And it'll go straight through.
I told you to miss it.
Yeah, you got to be thinking in Chicago, he is a hated man.
Yeah, I mean, remember what they did to the kid?
Norwood?
Well, the
Look
kid
what they did to Ray
blew
Finkel.
The Cubs game. The kid who blew the Cubs game. Remember when he reached over?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, in Chicago?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
well, that was a fan. That's one thing, you know.
Well, I'm just saying, you know,
they're brutal fans.
They are.
Yeah, and you had that game. That was your game. You were playing this weekend.
Yes.
And this guy blew it.
He did. He made the first one, too.
Yeah, Doug Peterson, give him credit. The old ice worked, maybe.
Someone said to me, they shouldn't be allowed to ice kickers anymore. Get
out
of here.
Are you kidding me?
It's so stupid.
Right, he did make the first one.
He made the first one.
Yeah.
Great.
Straight
right
down the middle.
Yep.
Yep. I love the fact that actually works. Because whenever they're doing those timeouts, I'm like, give me a break. Let's get this game over with. And it doesn't work. He's just going to kick it right on through, and they almost always do. But it didn't work. It completely worked here. And it is that time of year because Super Bowl parties will be coming up. And we'll be at a tailgate party this weekend, as a matter of fact. Yep. And the rule is you do not double dip.
Right, not in the community bowl.
But how much is it going to hurt you? Is it really going to hurt you?
There's germs. It's like putting your whole mouth in the bowl.
The author of a book called Did You Just Eat That says he's done rigorous tests and found that double dipping a chip. Are you ready?
Yes.
Transfers a significant amount of bacteria into the dip.
Yeah.
Just as you had suspected.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
See, I feel like there's bacteria everywhere. Like, so for instance, we have these nice paper cups here, and I go in and I put my coffee into it, and it sits on the counter stacked on other cups. You got to think there's bacteria on those.
Yeah.
But I'm fine.
Again, there's
when you go to your grocery store and you get those cans?
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
That have been sitting there for how long?
25 years.
You got to wipe that stuff off when you get home. Otherwise, you're putting those germs right into the.
Like you wipe your soda cans.
I do.
The tops.
Yeah. I do. I love the guy that will dip. Okay, he'll dip in with a chip, take a bite out of it, and then flip it around and dip the other unbitten part in, and I'm like, you just double dipped. No, I didn't. I flip it around. All right, like I want your grimy hands. Okay.
See, okay, I didn't think about that.
There's stuff off your hands too, man. That's double dipping.
Or think
about
this.
Are you thinking your saliva, your lip didn't touch the part? You know exactly how deep to dip. You know exactly how deep to dip that doesn't get to the point where your lip transferred bacteria onto that chip.
Bill
you
literally
don't know.
Bill does this with guests at his house.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
and let's face
now
it.
Get out.
Let's
get out.
You leave. Let's face it, though. If the germs can transfer from the bitten chip to the dips that rapidly, and the time it takes it to go from the
then the
dip,
germs are crawling
all over the chip. It's all over the chip.
Hang on. All bacteria and germs are not created equal. Some are good, some are bad. So there might be bacteria or germs on that cup, but they're not the same as the bacteria and germs in your mouth.
Right. Okay. So I agree with that point. But what I'm saying is that with your method of flipping the chip around to dip on the other side, the germs got to be covered in the whole chip.
Meanwhile, while we're arguing about this, the cat is eating out of the bowl. And we don't even know it. We go over there, we start eating, and everything's just fine.
Yeah, or the flies that go on there.
The issue of the wall and the shutdown today, of course, is the day when government workers, about 800,000 of them, are not going to receive paychecks. And you're beginning to see those workers come out. And it's going to be a very interesting week. We made a prediction, at least I made a prediction this week, that I think by next weekend you're going to see some sort of a deal to open the government back up, because I think that once these people start not getting paid, it's going to turn into a real PR nightmare. Mm-hmm. But who knows? The president says he's willing to keep this thing going as long as it needs to. And Nancy and Chuck say there'll be no money for the wall. Interestingly, during a 2004 commencement speech at Wagner College on Staten Island, all these things the president has done before he was president, things he's said, interviews he's done, they always come back to kind of haunt him. Nothing sticks on this guy, however. He's like Teflon Don. But this was a speech he gave at Wagner College on Staten Island. Donald Trump told students that if there's a concrete wall in front of you, what should you do?
Never, ever give up. Don't give up. Don't allow it to happen. If there's a concrete wall in front of you, go through it, go over it, go around it, but get to the other side of that wall.
Now, that's for everyone unless you're Mexican. and the Mexicans will not be able to get through that wall. It's so bad you're seeing some news reports out there, because you literally have Fox News that, for the most part, other than a couple of commentators and Chris Wallace as well, for the most part, they're basically defending the president. And it is exactly right. It's completely that. Do you agree?
The cheerleading, yeah.
It's complete cheerleading. On the other side, they're all ripping on the president. Can you believe he's done this?
Ever. It doesn't matter what he does. He's the worst ever.
Which is why I love people like Chris Wallace. Even network news, for the most part, will try to give you both sides of a
I think
story.
Kilmeade too is pretty.
I like Brian Kilmeade. And Fox News Radio to me is awesome. It's very, very. It is truly fair and balanced. Mm-hmm. But that's different. It's a news organization versus their editorial. It's like comparing Rush to the news that comes up at 9 o'clock in the morning. There's no comparison there.
Right.
Rush is an entertainer. That's the difference here. But it is really disturbing to watch. You have to weed through all of it to try to find some sense of, all right, I feel comfortable that I got the real story here. Because they're like showing video reports of people cutting through fences. And apparently our own government just did a whole thing on metal and concrete fencing. And they gave, they might have commissioned, I forgot who they commissioned, it might have been the military. Okay, get through this wall. And they all were able to just go right through the wall, cutting it or what have you. So there's got to be a combination of a wall and security and technology, hoping that our Congress and the president will come together. But it's both sides. They're both dug in. Neither one is negotiating. I'm not a person that's going to say it's all Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And I'm not a person that's going to say it's all President Trump. I look at it in a way that these people just can't seem to get past their own pride and their own agendas to be able to put something together that's good for the country.
Can I just ask, to the point you made?
And that's a shame, by the way.
It is. I feel like the can on this issue just keeps getting kicked. It's just punt, 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 punt. But the thing is, if you are a believer in the wall, to the point you made, it is so easy. to either cut some bricks out or cut some chain links and even fold it back over so it looks like the wall or the fence is completely intact. I think in the long term, building a barrier is probably more cost effective because you don't have to, like if you hire people to patrol it with personnel, you're paying somebody every year and benefits and everything else. And you pay that for 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, where like a wall is a one-time thing. But I just don't understand.
But you can't put a wall up and just leave it there. That's not going to stop anybody.
Exactly. And then the other point is the Mexico paying for it. They're not.
And this is interesting, too, because the president yesterday was saying, I never said Mexico was going to pay for it. I said they would pay for it indirectly. No, you, at one point during one speech, the problem is the president says one thing in speech A and then says something different in speech B. Has he said they might not pay, like writing a check, but through other means and other ways and through agreements, they'll ultimately pay. In other speeches, he said, they're going to write us a check for such and such amount of money and pay for the wall. So those words do come back to haunt you. But as I say, it never sticks on this president. His approval rating remains exactly where it was from the very beginning, and might even be a little bit higher. 826, Mitch standing by on the line right now on government workers. Are you a government worker, Mitch?
No, Bill, I'm not. My comment is about them, though. The 800,000 federal government workers will be on furlough.
I've read your editorials in the paper, so I can't wait to hear your take on this.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't like to see anybody put on furlough, lose their job or whatever. But on the other hand, this is probably true of your parents. I was taught by my mother and father that you have to save for a rainy day, and you should have in a savings account a minimum of 1 full month's pay in case something happens that you need to pay.
Mitch, I want you to listen to this sound. That's me smacking you upside the head. Okay,
it's easier said than done.
Come on, are you kidding me, Mitch? Let me ask you this: if Obama had done this, if we were blaming Obama for the shutdown, would you be saying the same thing? No, sure. I'll answer it for you. No, you wouldn't.
The same principle.
No, you wouldn't.
Most people's personal finances are terrible. They go paycheck to
I get
paycheck.
that. I get that.
100%.
But it still doesn't justify them having to be. Think about what we're asking for air control, the traffic controllers to do. We're asking for them to go to work and not get paid. I mean, the average Mitch, I want you to suspend all payments as a tribute to all government workers out there. I'd like you to suspend any payments that you have coming in for the next.
I'll do it.
Good. Could you come in?
I have enough cash in my pocket right now to pay my next month's bills. So if you said to me, I don't want you to accept any income, I want you to pay the bills over what money you got in your pocket and your pants, I can do it.
Okay, good for you. Yeah. Who cares, Mitch? That's my point. If I'm a government worker and you have no idea what's going on in these people's lives. They may very well be doing very well, able to save money. They might have had a child who just went through some sort of an illness. They might have had a spending problem. Somebody might have a gambling problem. You have no clue what's going on in these people's lives. Not everybody has the rainy day fund. They should, I get it. But to say that it's their own fault because they're a part of this furlough is ridiculous.
No, I didn't say that. What I said.
But you're saying they should have saved
prepared,
up.
Yeah.
They should have been prepared. What's the next statement? It's their own fault.
However, they should have, not in all cases, some people can't do it, but in most cases.
So what do we say to those people that can't do it?
Put aside in a savings account.
Yeah, la-di-da-di-da. Who cares? There are so many people in this country that live check by check. Who are you, not in their lives, to say they should have money set aside? It's their own fault.
It's up to them. It's whether they want to.
No. They've been furloughed, Mitch.
Smart about it and manage their personal finances properly.
They should have been smart and not worked for the United States government.
Yeah.
That's what they should have done. Because you can't trust the United States government. Because these congressmen and this president can't get out of their own pride and out of their own way that's what they made a mistake with. They should have worked in the private sector. Working for the government, they get what they deserve.
I agree with that.
All right, well, there we go. That's their own fault.
Thanks for taking my call. And Happy New Year, by the way.
I can't wait to read another one of your editorials. I'm going to crumple it up and build a campfire is what I'm going to do.
Can't pay the heat bill.
Nick, that's right. The president's building a wall. I'm building a campfire, and I'm using your editorial.
I got no heat.
All right, Mitch, you have a wonderful day.
You want more? I got an email here.
Okay.
I've been furloughed. I ain't got no heat.
Richard says within the next few days, he seems to agree with you on one point, but disagrees on who's going to cave. He says within the next few days, Dems will give in because they're just being stupid and political. They're just fighting within the party now. They are fighting within the party now. Dems are bad news, and we know it. And
I disagree with that. I believe they're both bad news. I believe they're both ridiculous, both sides. That's how I look at it. I do not look at it from a partisan way. In a partisan way, I think they're both wrong here.
Well,
they both should accept responsibility.
As I brought up to Ryan the other day, it's almost like, okay, Nancy and Chuck, if you let somebody else handle it, you don't have the blowback of caving. And same with President Trump.
Get the president out of it. Get Nancy and
Lindsey Graham and Chris Coons and
although Lindsey's all in with the president.
Yeah,
right now.
Maybe not a good example. But
since John McCain died, Lindsey is on his own. I have a feeling John McCain used to call up and say, Lindsey, you got to bring it back here for me, okay? And Lindsey'd be like, I'll do whatever you want, John. I like you. Now that John McCain's gone, Lindsey is all in. He's all in on President Trump.
I'm trying to think of the Kentucky Senate. Rand Paul. Have Rand Paul and Chris Coons and kind of these, level-headed guys that are usually pretty well on.
Rand Paul will take the money. Rand Paul will take the money.
He's not always a big President Trump fan.
He's going to take the money from the wall and divert it over to begin getting cruise ships to bring all of our troops home. Because he doesn't want us anywhere in the world. We are not the world's policeman, Rand Paul. That's his
But it's just like, if you allow other people to negotiate a deal and say it's out of my hands, you alleviate any pressure of caving.
Here's Tom in Utica. Hello, Tom.
Well, you're talking about something I was getting ready to talk about with turning it over to binding arbitration. I think
that's not a bad idea. That's really what Andrew's saying. Yeah.
That's basically what you're saying right now. But the other thing is the unions have a thing called a strike fund that they dip into for these long run things. So while I'm not real big on government unions, that might be something. Just an example.
Well, I think do they get unemployment? They can file for unemployment, right?
I don't think so. I think they will be paid for the work that they've done. They're just not getting a paycheck right now.
The other thing that
my only problem is I don't like hearing people say, well, they should have been saving. It's their own fault. Or, they're going to get paid. They're going to get their money. If you shut off the faucet of income on any family in America, there's a good chance, if you take all Americans, what percentage is going to be completely okay with that?
You mean
it's a pretty small
people?
All
right.
No, it's less than 20%.
I don't think it's just intelligence.
It's even less than 20%.
Well,
I don't think it's just intelligence.
Okay, right. But back to the.
It's a lot of it. A lot of it is circumstance. It's what's going on in their lives that places them in a position where they've had to dip into their rainy day fund if they had one.
And that's not great because people budget. Let me tell you something. I spoke with my cousin, and when I was down in Florida, and he has this system. And now he's well off. He's a successful attorney, but he budgets everything. He's got a very specific way of doing things. And if you miss one paycheck, you miss one credit card payment, you miss one utility bill, you miss one this, and that, and everything gets pushed back. And then that's something you can't really come back from.
Well, you can dip in. What I'm saying, though, is you can dip into your fund, but maybe you already have. Maybe you don't have one. It doesn't make you an idiot if you don't have one.
Right.
And
what I'm trying to say.
Right, exactly. What I'm saying is, but people budget for certain specific reasons, and anything that throws it off can put them in a difficult situation.
Okay. And then to Mitch's point,
hold on, Tom. Let Jeff
to Mitch's point earlier, why wouldn't that translate to the government? So if you think, and I don't disagree with Mitch's point that you should have 30 days worth of bills.
Well, it should be 90 days.
Not right. 3 months, actually, worth of money stockpiled. I shouldn't say stockpiled, but set aside so in case there is a situation where you lose your job, right, wherever it is, that you can pay your bills. Well, apparently the United States government doesn't have that philosophy.
Right.
Because they can't pay their bills right now because of the 30-day thing. And I just... don't even get me started on the debt.
Well, maybe they should borrow from the city of Utica. They've got a gigantic surplus. They could do.
How about how about going out there and having the government say, "Look, lending institutions, lay off the, offer a furlough to these folks who are in such financial difficulty, and don't nail them." They could do that too.
That would be right, because you're hearing from workers that are saying, my credit card company's not going to say, hey, that's all right, we'll forgive. The other thing is, how do we sit here and, because of our political biases, sit here and defend what the government is doing right now? I don't know how we can do that, either side, because it even gets that much better. Congress is getting paid. They're getting paid. Why is there, and Brindisi just recently reintroduced, but this has been a bill that's been around for a long time.
Right. They won't do it, though.
They will not do it because, God forbid, they don't want to give up their money, but they'd be willing to negotiate us into a stalemate so that other people don't get their money. We should be furious with both sides. But
well,
right,
we could take a trip to Washington, like they took down to the Mississippi, down to New Orleans, and go and have a little demonstration.
All right. Well, maybe
leaving
that's
all the sticks and stones at home, of course.
Maybe that's what'll be coming. All right, Tom. Thanks.
Okay.
John in Bridgewater, you're on the radio. Hello, John.
Hey, Bill. Hey, you there?
Yes.
God bless that Mitch if he's got a month's worth of money on hand.
He's in his pocket, by the way.
Bill,
he says. So.
Huh?
He has it in his pocket.
Well, I don't have that luxury. I've been on my job for 36 years. The only thing I have here is a retirement 401k. That's it.
Yep.
And if I get sick and miss a day, I don't have sick time. I have to use a vacation day.
Yeah, I think the implication that you're not smart that you're a dummy if you don't have 90 days just sitting around and waiting, I think that's pretty unfair. You don't know people's circumstances.
I don't even take vacation because my vacation time is if I get sick, dental, doctor's appointment, or anything like that. So God bless Mitch if he's got that much money in his pocket. Maybe I can borrow some from him.
Well, he might want to borrow my wife. I could show him how to drain your account very quickly.
Well, have a great day. Oh, that's a good one. Bye.
I think she's at work now.
And there's another expense for Bill, a rental property. That's good.
Hey, Ken, you're on the radio. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing today?
Good, Ken. Go ahead.
Hey, in response to Mitch's statement, I realize that a lot of people don't have extra cash. I get that, all right? But I used to be a contractor for the United States government, all right? And there was always a fear that you're going to get laid off due to some kind of government thing, and you get paid, you come to work, and you're going to get paid. So knowing that could happen at any time, a government shutdown, the people that I worked with and myself, we talked about that, and we made plans. If there was a government shutdown, it's not going to last that long. We'll get some money ahead or have a special account of whatever so we could pay our bills. And that's just the way it is as a government contractor or as a government employee.
Yeah,
you have to set yourself up.
That brings up a very good point that if you know you work for a place, a company, or the government, that because of a political mess, the political mess that we currently are in and have been in the past, I guess if anybody should have known to be able to put money away for a rainy day, it probably is government workers. Okay, fair enough. I'm assuming that's what you're saying. You know who you work for.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes, sir.
All right, fair enough. Okay, I'm with you. But again, at the same time, you don't know. There could be somebody that's gone through a medical situation. I mean, there are circumstances where you can't avoid it. But I'll take your point. That's a good point, Ken. Thank you.
And we had a message in, and it was a good point saying that I think she was trying to say that there's nothing wrong with saying, I think, that everyone should have a rainy day fund. Like, if you can do it, it's probably encouraged to do it. But also, it's just not always a realistic thing. Nah.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a new congresswoman, saying, I feel rainy day funds should be provided by the government. And I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about.
Right.
But this should be provided for us. We call it the new RDF legislation. She's introducing it right now. It's the rainy day fund.
Rainy day fund
legislation. We've already been drinking, so I'm just going to lay it out there and
I've dipped into my rainy day fund.
Yeah, Andrew's dipping into his rainy day fund, and he bought some MD 2020. So that's all he could afford. But hey, I think we're going to be okay.
I was told to 86 the bottle of 601, so I did.
Smart. Yeah. Brandon Lang standing by right now. Before you do any extracurricular activity this weekend, you might want to go to Brandon's website. It's brandonlang.com. Brandon, of course, was the inspiration for the movie Two for the Money. Mm-hmm. And Matthew McConaughey played Brandon in the movie. Good morning, Brandon Lang.
That song that you just played I grew up 30 minutes from a ski mountain and never went skiing in Michigan. Joined the Navy. Battleship New Jersey, we go over to Europe. We go to France. We take a 2-hour bus ride, me and 4 guys up to the French Alps. That's where I learned how to ski. I had my buddy's Walkman. They took me up to the top of the mountain and said, here's how you snowplow, figure it out, left me hanging.
Wow.
I can't get down the mountain, so I'll just snowplow down. Well, that didn't work. I get flying, hit a mogul. That song's playing in my headset. When I hit the mogul, went head over head, landed, and then the chairlifts right above me. They're giving me like a 10. What a great wipeout. And I'm like, am I alive? Picked up my skis, walked down to the bottom of the hill, and just sit there miserable. The one guy came in, took me to the bunny hill, taught me how to ski, and I skied for the rest of the day. It was like 58 degrees. But that song ignited that memory, so thank you.
There you go.
Huey Lewis and the News, New York, New York. I'll never forget it as long as I live.
That was hot in the 80s.
Well, I'll tell you, so Brandon was the most excited when Huey Lewis canceled his last tour because he couldn't sing anymore. He's like, yeah, take that, Huey.
Yeah, I don't have to remember that anymore. All right, Brandon, first, before we get into the NFL, what do you think is going to happen with Syracuse and Duke on Monday?
I'm very interested to see how they handle the matchup zone. It'll be the first real test they've seen from a zone standpoint, which clogs the lane, which means those penetration and those dunks. I like Syracuse plus the points. I don't think these freshmen know what they're getting into against that zone. I'm really looking forward to watching that. It's amazing this run that Duke is on. They covered a 21.5 the other night, winning by 22. It's unbelievable how they're covering these numbers. And I imagine Syracuse will be getting someplace in the neighborhood of 18 to 20. I'm very interested to see how these freshmen handle that matchup zone.
My mic is off for some reason. By the way, this weekend, United Way Tailgate Party happens at the Waterfront Grill. Mark Butler, Barb, and Rocky Fiato put this on to benefit the United Way. We'll all be there. The games will be playing. It's $25 a person, and you get your first drink on the house, all-you-can-eat buffet. Of course, the Patriots game is on at 1 o'clock. The 4:40 game is the Eagles and Saints. What do you think about this weekend?
Well, let's hope they're as easy as Clemson on Monday night, which was probably one of the better calls I've made in the 27 years I've done this.
Yeah, boy, that's a biggie right there.
I think that you get blowouts in the playoffs because a team that shouldn't be there gets there, and I think that's the Eagles. To sit back and know that they beat Chicago, I get it, but Mitchell Trubisky went 29 of 43 for 305 yards against that Eagles secondary. What's Drew Brees going to do after putting almost a 50 spot on him? I get it. I get the heartfelt stories, St. Nick, yada, yada. But for me, without question, you don't try to win with Philadelphia. You lose with New Orleans. Now, I know I said that last week in the Bears and Eagles. Eagles got the winning cover, but I believe Saints offensively are a whole different animal. I think they're in trouble. The other game's a tough one for me. Everybody loves New England. All the stats say New England. The Chargers were real good to me last week. I just get the gut feeling that I'm going to take Crimea Rivers plus the 4.5. They've won at the 5 toughest places in the NFL. They've won at Buffalo. They've won at Seattle. They've won at Kansas City. They've won at Pittsburgh. And they've now won it at Baltimore. 5 toughest places to play. I'm going to take more than a field goal with Crimea.
Wow.
That is...
Hey, I want to ask you, speaking of field goals, what do you think of Cody Parkey? Is that what his name is?
Yeah.
Cody shouldn't have came down to him, and that's what is making me angry all week. Is you're the Bears defense. You're supposed to be great. You're supposed to be this badass defense that nobody can score on. Your team gives you a 5-point lead. You take the field with 5 minutes to go. Eagles got the ball in their own 40. You end the game right there. You say that's it, game over. Here comes Khalil Mack. Here comes all this defense. Here comes right there. Game ends. They didn't get the stop. They couldn't stop Nick Foles. They allowed them to score, and then you put it on the kicker. Should have never came down to him.
Yeah, especially they got it to 4th and goal. Okay, they were at 4th and goal. All they had to do was stop it, and then it was wide open to Golden Tate. Like the whole defensive scheme was just out the window. That whole drive.
Yep.
How about tomorrow's games? Colts, Chiefs, Cowboys, Rams, the late game.
I like the way Dallas matches up with the Rams. Rams allow 5.2 yards per carry. Dallas is going to run the football. I'm going to force Jared Goff to have a great playoff game. He wasn't great last year against Atlanta. I believe Dallas matches up well with them. I'm going to take Dallas plus the points. The Indy Chiefs game is up on the website right now for Saturday. It's 200-dime NFL winner number 7 in a row. I've been on an unbelievable tear in the NFL, and it's also 200-dimer number 2 in a row off Clemson Monday night. I wouldn't miss it. And I got a college basketball play up there as well, as I'm trying to hit a 6th straight college basketball winner.
Wow.
Having Tulsa last night over Cincinnati. Guys, I'm on a 27-9 college basketball run going back to last year. So of those 27 winners, 21 are dogs outright. So 2 for 1 tonight.
Pretty good. Check out his website. It's BrandonLang.com. As always, Brandon, we appreciate it. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, guys.
All right, man.
I told you about those boys.
Oh,
didn't
actually,
I?
I was supposed to get Kathy in there. Kathy, I'm sorry. I just saw you up there.
Michigan State will do
and
okay.
He's gone. Now Andrew's going to give you his
Yes.
pick. Kathy, I'm sorry.
Michigan State.
Oh, that's all right. This is Michigan State weather. I hate this cold.
You hate what? Oh, the cold.
This cold weather.
I do, too.
And I was just wondering, how Michigan State was going to do in conference play. So far, they're undefeated.
All right, well, listen, you hit us next week, and we'll get you back in there with him, all right?
Okay.
All right, Kathy, have a great weekend. Stay
Bye-bye.
warm inside. Stay inside. It's cold out.
I will say, Kathy, they probably got a 50-50 shot of winning each of their games.
Okay. Thanks,
that makes
Andrew.
You feel
Bye-bye.
Okay. Goodbye, Kathy. We'll break. I have somebody coming in. What's his name?
Noah Dinerstein.
Noah Dinerstein is a local musician. He's going to do some songs that you will recognize. He's coming in the studio in just a bit to close out this full week, a full week post-holiday. Coming up at WIBX.